So, I just came back from watching Saban's Power Rangers at the theaters this weekend. Long story short, it's pretty good. It follows the show's lore very faithfully and lives up to the series' namesake, but at the same time, it's not particularly great either. The movie pretty much follows the first episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but with a more gritty, serious tone. There are bits and pieces of humor in there, but it's not like the silly and campy TV show from the 90s. One thing that worried me was that the show was going to dive into the out-of-place toilet humor and cringe jokes like in the Transformers movies. Apparently, it didn't take very long, especially with that dick joke in the first 2 to 3 minutes of the film. Here, Jason is trying to steal a school mascot as a prank that happens to be a bull, and one other character alongside him mentions how he milked the cow before they left, not realizing that only female cows are milked, and then showing a close-up of the bull's dangly parts underneath a flashlight. Yay, a masturbation joke, not even 5 minutes into the movie. Thankfully, that was the only part of the movie that I really cringed at, since it was the only bit of toilet humor in the entire movie or a joke that I felt was out of place. Thank God. There were other changes as well. The first thing you notice is that the main cast are more realistic teenagers, where the characters in the show were pretty much all goody-goods through and through. Here they are pretty much troubled youths, each with their own personal issues that question their place in the world and are treated as outcasts by society. Hell, most of the characters meet each other in detention. Once they discover they are Power Rangers, the characters are forced to get to know each other and learn to trust each other as a team. My main issue with this movie is that it kind of focuses on that a little too much. It's nice that each of them have their own little story arc to build their characters up and make them more likable, but you do have to consider that once we get the initial introduction out of the way and the characters find the command center, discover they are Power Rangers, and then going through each character's backstory all take up a huge chunk of the movie. In fact, the characters don't even morph into their power armor and battle Rita Repulsa until 3/4 into the movie. By that point, the movie's almost over. I know that with a TV show, you have a lot more time to build up the characters, but with a movie, you really have to be straight and to the point. The cast fits each of the characters rather well and are a believable and fun bunch to watch interact with each other. Much of the film focuses on the journey to the characters becoming Power Rangers rather than the Ranger fights themselves. The acting in this movie is really good, and you really feel for these characters as the film progresses. There's just one really bad misstep, as Bulk and Skull are completely absent from the film. You do get a bully character, but it's not those two. Bryan Cranston does a really great job as Zordon as well. I really like the effects they gave him and how exacerbated he gets when the Rangers fail to act as a team. As for Alpha 5, I kind of don't like the aesthetic they gave him, but at least he wasn't as high-pitched annoying like he was in the show. The one character who really steals the show is Elizabeth Banks as Rita Repulsa. You can tell she's having a blast in this movie. First thing is, she is not like the vain and short-sighted Rita from the TV show. If anything, she is more like her Super Sentai counterpart Bandora from Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. She is cold, calculating, and sadistic on top of being narcissistic. Her plans also have more of a focus as well, and that her goal is to amass enough gold to form her monster Goldar in order to steal the Earth's life crystal, the Zeo Crystal, which makes all life on Earth possible. She is a creepy, yet at the same time, fun and enjoyable villain to watch. Although she does look an awful lot like Diva Talks. Another problem I found is that some scenes in this movie have a strange tendency to cut to and from each other rather abruptly without any form of transition. At times, it is hard to figure out what is going on thanks to this, and it often pulls you out of the movie. It is nice that the film likes to keep the story moving as much as possible to keep the film from dragging, but it is definitely not seamless. It could have been edited better or had more time to tie the scenes into each other rather than just cutting to the next action piece as soon as possible. There isn't that much product placement, that is, with the exception of one instance. It's not Man of Steel bad, but boy do the producers of this movie love their Krispy Kreme. Either that or Krispy Kreme was the only sponsor for this movie. It's almost a character in and of itself, on par with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. References to that franchise are all over this thing, especially near the end. There is even a hilarious scene where the movie literally stops for about 5 to 10 seconds to show Rita Repulsa eating a donut. You can imagine all the chaos that Goldar is rampaging around, wrecking the town, all the while Rita is inside the Krispy Kreme with a glazed donut thinking, "Oh, don't bother me right now." I'm surprised the main monster in this film wasn't a giant box of Krispy Kreme donuts. A little note for the sequel, guys. More Power Rangers, less Krispy Kreme. The big question is whether or not this movie is enjoyable. Knowing how silly the original show was, I set my standards kind of low. In the end, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I thought it would be right up there with the Transformers movies in terms of awfulness. It still has its own set of problems, but I can tell a lot of love and care was put into making this film. The characterization in the film is solid, the acting is believable, the directing is pretty good, and the pacing is good. There are a few problems, but since there is a sequel planned and even teased at the end of this movie, there is still a lot of room for improvement, and I hope we get that as long as they're not fighting in front of a Krispy Kreme again. I am going to hold off on giving this film a rating because I am planning to give a more thorough review of this once it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray. If you are a die-hard fan, you might be disappointed since the Ranger fighting action doesn't really appear until the very end, but I still liked it. So that is all I have to say about the movie. Next time I will talk about what I thought about the live-action Ghost in the Shell movie, and then we will return to form with first impressions by diving into shows from the spring 2017 season. Until next time, this is the American Anime Otaku, signing out. Like what you see? Then please help support the show by contributing to my Patreon page for special perks, exclusive content, and more.